Welcome to this short presentation on starting out in marketing and communications. My name is Adrienne and I am one of the careers consultants at the University of Cambridge Careers Service. In this briefing, I just want to run through some definitions, talk a little bit about the difference between in-house and agency, think about skills and entry points into the industry, and give you some pointers in terms of where you might begin building your network and researching further. So a few definitions to start us off. Marketing and communications, which includes public relations, internal communications. It's an incredibly broad field to be looking into. And so it's good to kind of get a few definitions to begin with so that you've got a sense of what you're looking for. And particularly when you begin looking at job titles and organizations, thinking, where do they fit in all of this? It's also useful because it gives you an idea of some of the professional bodies that can be useful for research and labour market information. So we have performance marketing, advertising programs in which affiliates and marketing companies are only paid when a desired action is completed. And the Institute for Performance Marketing is the professional body that leads on this. Digital marketing, the use of websites, apps, mobile devices, social media, search engines, and other digital means to promote and sell products and services. So within that, you will also find social media marketing. And so you've got the Institute of Data and Marketing and also a crossover a little bit with the IPM. You'll also find digital marketing information in the Chartered Institute of Marketing, the CIM. So this is where everything begins to really cross over before we've even started. Content marketing, so that's about content driven. So the Content Marketing Association is the professional body that tends to look after that. And then you've got public relations, so establishing and maintaining goodwill and mutual understanding between an organisation and its public. So that's the Chartered Institute of Public Relations is the kind of key. And then you've got communications, the transmission of information between organisational members in parts of an organisation. So that's internal communications. And the Institute of Internal Communication is the key professional body. There's also the IPA there, which is the Institute for the Profession of Advertising. Because we've seen a big merge across, really since digital, across the functions of marketing, public relations, content marketing and branding. Whilst the IPA absolutely has its place and people go specifically into advertising, you'll see a lot of brand activity going on in other roles and other organisations. But these professional bodies are really useful starting points just to give you a view on what's going on in the industry. Many of them have their own jobs boards, and they're just a really good place to get a feel for the different areas of marketing and communications. One of the things to think about when you're considering a Marcomms career is whether you want to work for an agency or whether you want to work in-house. Many agencies come under the small and medium-sized enterprise banner, so they've got fewer than 250 employees, and most of them are medium-sized, so they're around sort of 50. And these agencies manage a portfolio of client accounts. So they may have a specialism, for example, only representing charities or specializing in marketing for science organizations. Many of them are full service, and that means that they are providing this mixture of branding, marketing campaigns, public relations, maybe website development, apps. So they're actually giving that full marketing and communications service to a particular company. And they may, as an employee in agencies, you may represent a number of clients or be working on a number of client accounts in your role. So kind of role titles you might find in an agency: PR assistant, account manager, marketing exec, digital marketing exec, social media exec, brand manager. They're the kind of job titles you might find. In-house is different. So you've got larger corporate organisations, public sector organisations, government agencies, HE and FE, charities. So this is where you've got an internal communications department. You might have a comms department and a press office. And they are both communicating internally. So the comms department are speaking to their own members of that organisation, and the press office, which is often aligned to the comms department, is speaking outwards. But with comms departments in, for example, local government, you're very likely to be working on things that are intended for your internal, your own staff, but also for wider stakeholders. So thinking about your council tax payers, your stakeholders in terms of partner organizations. So you're speaking about your organization to maybe a wider audience. And the kind of role titles you'll find are communications assistant, PR officer, marketing officer, social media assistant, and digital marketing officer. And you'll see the kind of the big difference is looking at the titling of assistant and officer as opposed to exec and manager. This is not absolutely standard across all organizations. And the one thing that I would say when you're looking at role titles, don't be put off by the role title. Go and have a look at what goes on inside that job and judge whether or not it's the right level of role for you, judging by your own experience, rather than just being put off by a title. And as it says at the bottom of the slide, sometimes agencies contract for in-house, particularly in the case of rebranding. You'd bring in a branding organization to work on, for example, rebranding the University of Cambridge, which is something that is just happening at the moment. So you'll start seeing lots of new imagery and graphics for the university. That's something that's probably done by an agency externally. So there are many role variations and titles. So as I've said, job titles differ and they don't always reflect experience. So be aware of that, and really when you see that job opportunity that interests you, have a good look at what it is the day-to-day is going to be, what kind of skills they're asking for, and how well you feel you match that person's specification, because that job title may not help you. And the skills needed in these industries are really quite broad. Clearly, communication is, very, very important, because ultimately that's what you're doing. You're communicating with your clients, your customers, your stakeholders, your colleagues. So good professional business communication, as well as that more creative, generated communication if you are writing copy or creating campaigns, for example. But as you can see, there's a lot of interpersonal teamwork, problem solving, very, very straightforward in the lack of technical skill in many of these areas. But good numeracy and analytical skills, particularly if you're working at the data end, search engine optimization or other data handling. Presenting that data. So if that's key, being able to present on the efficacy of a social media campaign, you need to be able to not just understand the numbers, but present them clearly to your clients. AI tools are clearly becoming prevalent in this industry, and a confidence in using those tools to support your work, not to do all of your work for you, but to support your work, is really important. So I think confidence, being comfortable with the use of AI across a range of activities, is a good thing. If you're going into social media, then being able to schedule, to use the technical skills necessary, and also, as I said a moment ago, search engine optimization, those sorts of things, just having an understanding. And there are lots and lots of introductory webinars, particularly on LinkedIn Learning, where you can get to grips with some of this, even if it's not something you envisage using on a day-to-day basis. Actually, the commercial awareness of how you put a campaign together or how you present information to a particular client, having that knowledge will really help you in your applications and interviews. Other requirements: work experience that demonstrates your skills and abilities is important, but it can come from a broad range of activities. So internships, summer work shadowing, volunteering, and particularly society roles. If you're involved in marketing and events and communications in a SOC, then that's a really good piece of experience to bring. You can enter at a very an entry level role in this industry, and through those professional bodies undertake CPD, continuing professional development. For example, the Chartered Institute of Marketing has got a series of qualifications from certificate through to postgraduate diploma, and you can take those actually as part of your job. And often employers will sponsor you and support you through that professional development journey. Importantly, don't overlook administrative skills. These are highly administrative jobs, even if you're not an administrator. You're having to manage a great deal of information and make sure that it is accurate and accessible and shared appropriately. So you need an understanding of the broad Microsoft Office suite, a good understanding of file protocols, shared drives, actually how to actually keep that information where it needs to be and only share it to the people it has to be shared with. And again, working with Teams and other online communication platforms that are kind of common now to the office environment. Microsoft Excel is required in the majority of roles, even if it's just tracking a particular project through. If you're not confident with Excel, I'd really encourage you to have a look at the LinkedIn Learning programs for Excel. They're very good, they're very comprehensive. Just get your Excel to a level where you don't have a complete blank when you open up a workbook. And I'm saying this as somebody who doesn't enjoy using Excel. Many of you watching this will love Excel, but if it's not something that you use in your day-to-day at university, then it's very important to try and get some understanding of how to use it confidently. And again, if you're thinking about social media, wrapping your head around things like Hootsuite, Canva, Clipchamp, just having a little bit of confidence so that you can speak to that in applications and at interview. Prospects.ac.uk is a really helpful site if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the different roles. This is an example taken from Prospects of a digital copywriter job profile. And within it, it gives a summary of the general responsibilities, so effectively a job description, and also the skills commonly required for this sort of role, so effectively a person specification. Each profile is also super useful because it gives you some key employers and also good places to look for vacancies. We have a lot of marketing and communications opportunities posted on Handshake, but it's not the only platform. So when the time comes, knowing where to look is a really good thing. So I commend the prospects profiles to you as a good starting point. So have a look at prospects. If you go to work experience, you will see a sector tab, and you can look at media and communications roles under those sector tabs, and that will give you a list of really good starting point profiles. As for entry routes, there are a lot of internships in this industry across a range of sectors. So not just internships working, for example, within a marketing agency, but also marketing internships, for example, organizations in the financial industries. All of these large organizations that have their own departments have a marketing department. Everybody is responsible for marketing their own company. So don't necessarily think about the type of marketing you want to do initially, but think about the types of organizations you're interested in working for. You might be really interested in working in a charity or working in the public sector, or you might want to work in the green sector. So one of the things that you can think about is going for that in-house approach and looking for opportunities in sectors that interest you. If you're interested, obviously, in agencies, then that gives you your own focus. What kind of things is this agency doing? Who are they representing? What kind of clients do they have? So lots of opportunities out there. And again, using Handshake and the prospects profiles will be really useful. I'd also commend Bright Network to you as well as a really useful site for marketing. So there are graduate schemes across a range of sectors, but be prepared for the fact that some of those schemes ask for a degree in marketing. I think Marks and Spencer's is an example of a scheme that doesn't run every year, but when they do run a marketing strand, they tend to ask for a marketing degree, which is not necessary for a lot of graduate schemes in marketing. But direct entry is the common route into the industry. And so it is important that you try to get some work experience or experience through societies, that you're kind of aware of the skills that you're going to need for this industry, and ideally to try to find some internship experience in your second year to help you with those direct entry applications when you come to graduate. And with direct entry roles, you're not likely to be applying for such things until much later in your final year. So really seriously thinking about who you want to apply for from March onwards, whereas obviously graduate schemes come into play much earlier in the academic cycle. And speculative applications can be really useful for both work experience and internships. And I'd also encourage you to maybe think about volunteering if you have opportunity over the summer to volunteer, but to actually ask to volunteer in a marketing department rather than front of house. Master's qualifications, they're not essential for this industry, but some people might choose to move disciplines. So they may do, for example, a degree in history and decide to take a master's in marketing or marketing and management, to really kind of deepen that industry knowledge, particularly if they're not confident with data. A lot of the master's courses are quite data heavy and they can bring you up to speed with those skills, but it is not essential. Average salaries around 32,500. Entry level in this industry isn't amazing. It's around 25,000, and graduate scheme starting salaries around 30 to 35,000. And the other thing to really remember is that freelancing is common for certain roles in this sector, particularly, as I've put here, graphic design, web building, those sorts of things. So be aware that freelancing is a thing, and you might want to just get a little bit more comfortable with what freelancing entails, and we have resources to support you with this. And some advice from employers. So be interested, be curious, ask people what they do and how they do it, learn how the organization makes the money to be sustainable and able to invest. So understanding the basics of revenue streams, the main operating costs are, what the profit surplus margins are. So thinking about Marcomms as a business working for other businesses, and having that commercial awareness. And this is where, coming back to the first slide, having your professional bodies and reading about what's going on in the industry is a very, very good way to prepare for applications. Looking for curiosity, presenting ideas, and understanding the basics of marketing. And this employer is talking about the importance of relationships. So building client relationships, having trusting client relationships is super important. And getting to grips with the tech. So thinking about spreadsheets, I've mentioned, chat apps, Teams and Slack. So all of the things that I've brought out in the skills slide, this is being emphasized by employers. And finally, this idea of adaptability. It is an incredibly fast moving sector. It can be quite a demanding sector to work in. So being adaptive, being able to learn new skills and really kind of want to develop in this industry is something that will be very much valued by employers. And it's also really important to think about your networking. So it helps you to develop professional contacts and it brings all sorts of benefits and opportunity. People don't necessarily enjoy networking. It's a big, scary word, I think, but really it's about having a conversation with a purpose. Whilst you're at Cambridge, any events that you can come along to that are run by your college or by the career service, make a point of just dropping in. You can learn a little bit about an industry, but also it gives you the opportunity to have a conversation with one of the presenters at the end of the session. Attending fairs is a great way to practice your networking and just asking the representatives of those organisations about what it's like in their company, what they do, what roles are available. So networking can be just an information exchange, and it doesn't need to be you plucking up the courage to say, "Can I have a job, please?" In fact, it's much more about building a relationship and finding out information. And at the end of a networking conversation, saying, "Where would you advise I go next to learn more about this?" Or what would your recommendation be if I was researching for internships in this particular organization? So thinking about it as building a rapport and a relationship. So it will develop your confidence and it will help you to make contacts. If you do meet somebody in a networking event and you ask to connect with them, then make sure that you follow up on that and drop them a message on LinkedIn, just so that you're actually kind of completing that conversation. It's great for speculative applications. It's great to learn more about different role titles within organizations, and it can help you to develop your commercial awareness. So you can use LinkedIn or attend formal events, or you can network through friends, through colleges, clubs, societies. It's all networking. It's all adding to the number of people that you know and that you're confident talking to. And we have a networking page on the careers website with lots more information. And we also run a networking workshop for you to come along to. And I've mentioned LinkedIn a couple of times already. I really recommend this for the marketing and communications sector. It is probably the most dominant sector above tech in LinkedIn, and it was certainly one of the sectors that adopted LinkedIn from very early days. We have 90,000 plus Cambridge alumni on LinkedIn on the University of Cambridge LinkedIn page. That's a really great opportunity for you to actually look through some of those people, search by organization or job title, and get in touch with them and just say, "I'm really interested in what you do. Could you spare 5 minutes for me to just ask you a couple of questions?" Make that connection. You've got somebody else in your address book. And it also helps you to search companies, look at who works in those organizations, and again, build connections and information. So I encourage you to look at the Marketing, Advertising and PR Sector Guide on prospects. It's just a really good starting point, giving you more of those role profiles and helping you to see the difference between the different roles within this very broad sector. Opportunities can be found, as I say, through Handshake, but it's also useful to know that we have a marketing and comms jobs and internship job on Handshake. that actually isn't a job, but it lists all of a lot of really good websites for you to focus your search on. So if you look in the job search on Handshake and put that particular job in, what actually you will get is a resource. Bear in mind that many Marcom agencies are small, they don't have graduate schemes, so this is where LinkedIn and the specialist sites really come to the fore, because it makes it easier for you to search either geographically or by type of agency. Our website is there with more resource and more information, so have a look at what we have to offer as well. And obviously, at any point, if you want to have a conversation with a careers consultant about your career, then please just pop onto Handshake and book an appointment. So just to wrap up, think about some of the things that you might want to do whilst you're at Cambridge. I would really recommend the Skills Discovery Toolkit to you as a way of really creating a baseline where your skills are at and what you might need to develop, and some suggested ways of how you could develop those skills whilst you're at Cambridge. We've also got self-awareness questionnaires on Handshake, really good starting points in terms of thinking about your values and motivations and the skills that you bring. I encourage you to make the most of your time learning about the industry. Come along to some of our marketing events, our Creative Careers panel events. Look at the recordings on YouTube from previous panels and interviews with professionals. Come and meet with us if you want to talk about it. It's absolutely fine. Pop onto Handshake and book that appointment. But also sign up for the marketing and communications newsletters to stay informed of both events and also opportunities externally to Cambridge. We have the CV and application guides, and we can give you feedback on applications as well as running your CV through the CV checker. I encourage you to look at those professional bodies, because they often have student membership, and certainly they're the best place to really get that sense of what's going on in the industry. And that student membership could give you access to additional resources, as well as attending events, conferences, and reduced price on many things that those professional bodies offer. And finally, think about how you build that experience. Think about the skills that are being asked for in these different roles. Where can you actually practice those skills whilst you're studying? Thank you so much for watching this. I hope it's given you some ideas for embarking on your research and exploring this sector in more depth. It's a really interesting industry, lots of very exciting stuff going on. So thanks again for watching.